5. And so you already know me, and so a small snippet again, because last time also some of you were like new to the session, and most of you are already have been have experienced HR analytics session in ISTD forum. So yes, as you want to connect with me in social media, I'm there in all the platforms. You can connect with the hashtag Prisma Philosophy, or I'm there in as a Anubhav Alia. So you can write my name in Google and get all the details, right? So some of our Prism sessions, which are very much appreciated by the corporates. So I think we'll maintain the basic tips in hygiene as always, which has been shared in the past, by understanding the chat box activity and muting yourself and unmuting as and when required. Okay, so in the session 1, I focused on the overview of HR. We also talked about the concept of people workforce with the HR, and then we talked about the benefits of HR analytics. We understood the history, importance, and then challenges that are there in the analytics. In the session 2, we focused on the tools, the various types of tools, and what are the careers, actually available, and what are the career trajectory, including the analytics domain. Um, Third session focused on training and development matrix, which focused on the function of L&D, which is LMS and LRS. We talked about the top metrics, which has been used by the corporates, and we also talked about the various, the innovative ways to measure the training effectiveness. And in the last session, we talked about the recruitment matrix, and we understood the measuring approaches, types of recruitment matrix, which has been used onto the speed, cost, quality front, and which are the most frequently used metrics, and what are the ways to benchmark it. So I have already given you the link in the past, in the last session, in fact, and if you want to know the various formulas to it, and you can always refer back the blog in prismaphilosophy.wordpress.com. And our today's session will focus on the workflows modeling. We'll also talk about HR as a business partner, and we'll focus on the workforce analytics by understanding the 5 easy steps for workforce analysis. So that's going to be our today's session, Parafree. All right. So in the last session, I did give you one link again, and I have again given it in the chat box. Uh, just would like to know how many have actually gone through that link. Yes. Again, I would really appreciate if you can be candid. Just raise your hands, or else just put it on the chat that you have read it. Okay. Okay. Arpita says you've read it. Thank you so much, Arpita. Yes. Anyone else who have read that? Thanks, Manisha, for confirming that you could not make it. No problem. Okay, you did go through it briefly, Vivek. Nice. So we are 15 of us. I would like to know the consent so that, okay, superficially you did it, Neha, no problem. Okay, Rizwan, you couldn't, okay, you were not there in the last session. Ashish, even you could not go through it at all. Okay. So, Yogesh ji, you missed reading the blog, no problem. Okay, so learning is something which is like can't be enforced. It has to be self-driven, right? So again, I'm not here to, put it into the punishment mode. Not at all. You all are very highly intellect professionals, and it is for all of you. What I have done is in the starting of the session only, I have already given you a blog, which you all can read it again. Okay, and just putting it again for all of you. Yes. So I'll just reshare my screen, and if you will see, So that's the block, ladies and gentlemen. I have given you the analysis onto the staffing data analytics, which has been very well used by. There is a concept of 7 core decision which has been used, right? And I would appreciate if you can read it, and it can be really helpful for you because this is a concept which has been given, and we have used the recruitment effectiveness approach in this, and the grid was made on the job performance and predictors, and in which category one has to fall in by a recruiting agency, and then accordingly the job the acceptance performance, that is the job acceptance performance, was evaluated. So it's a good 8 to 10 minutes read, and it this article actually talks to you and share you about how the utility analysis has been used, how the scatter diagram has been used by using the correlation matrix. So that's why I wanted you to go through it. And here there is a link related to my book, which is there on the research, fundamental of research. uh, if you want to pick up and buy this book, you can easily do that. It is there on the Amazon, and even in the last, if you will see, the link has already been there in the site itself, as well. I was just sent you again, so that if you want to order it, you can order it. Now, why I'm giving you this, because if you want to make your data analytics strong into the descriptive analytics, this book is really apt, and we have got a lot of appreciation on this particular, because it talks about the analytics at a different level altogether by using the descriptive analysis. So that is what I wanted to share. Okay, I'll come back and share the screen again of my PPT. Yes. So let me start with this. I'm going to start with my presentation mode. I'll just remove the chat box. Yes. Okay. So workforce modeling. Can anyone tell me what exactly do you understand by workforce modeling? Anyone? You can try and read from the screen. I'm absolutely good with that. Let me understand your understanding on this particular word, because we are talking about analytics, we're talking about workforce, and we're talking about modeling. So the three different
Yeah.
beautiful words. Anyone?
Yes. Can I?
Please, sir, all yours. I would really appreciate.
Workforce modeling basically means workforce is when a organization basically plans ahead of how they want their organization to strategize for the coming future, maybe 3, 5, 6 years further down. They are actually creating a structure, a well organized plan, a model basically to understand how they have to go forward and what kind of workforce skill sets, KSAs, competencies that they will be needing for this particular workforce strategy. And thereby they have a completely well planned workforce model which they need to implement in the coming years, and whereby they will be recruiting the right candidates, the right teams to ensure that the strategy is successful.
Fantastic. Truly appreciate your thoughts. So, rightly said, yes, workforce modeling, it is an attempt actually to understand how an organization, really need the human capital, and how would they change as a function of some expected changes in an organizational environment, right? So, this change may be a shift in the demand of the organization product, or it could be an entry into a new market, or maybe a diversification from one business to the another, or they could be a acquisition or a merger, or even, let me put it in this manner, in a current scenario, the way we have started work from home, in the pandemic time, new normal is taking a shape, and you will be so surprised that analytics has started taking a different usage into this particular domain. Okay. So how the things have changed, you will see that I've just put it into the cartoon mode, that people are actually watching all kind of social media stuff whether it is Netflix or whether it is Amazon Prime, and yet people are working, and you will see the things have gone absolutely different in current scenario. And I won't be surprised that, see, even so many times, see, I'm taking my session in my bedroom, right? And you will see that so many of you would be taking a session by sitting on the bed. Some of you would be probably, listening in the kitchen, or someone would be just sitting on the couch and would be listening to the session. So you will see the work has gone absolutely different. So you will find that there is a connect which we have to form from a business strategy to the people reporting, correct? So workforce analytics, you will find that from the software which falls under the very broad umbrella of people analytics, which actually refers to the all aspect of acquiring and managing employee, right? So the idea behind workforce analytics have shifted greatly as results of a technological innovation that offers a employee data. So in a modern workforce analytics, when we go dig deeper, you'll find it has actually presented itself in a visual manner. So the application actually helps enterprises leaders to develop and improve recruitment method, or make hiring decisions very effective, or keep the best workers with the company. And it helps managers for predicting the probability of an individual employee success. That's one. We can actually identify the need for new department and the positions. Third, it could be we can actually determine which departments or position can be reassigned or eliminated. Okay. And also we can identify and quantify physical risks to employees in specific position. You can find that there are so many factors that influence employee engagement and the job satisfaction. And you will see that we can analyze and predict such current and the future technological need. So we can actually assign and delegate responsibilities. We can optimize the enterprise structure. We can help enterprise to identify and encourage or cultivate its future leaders, for that matter. So let me give you an example. In 2017, there was a life science research organization. They actually used workforce analysis analytics tools to examine headcounts, diversity, and employee performance as a way to augment the company's organization setup. So the life science research organization, it's basically a hospital, so the hospital using a workforce analytics, so that was, they were able to discover that open job requisition has doubled to 500 over a 2 years of period, which has resulted a time to fill those available position which has increased. So last session I have already talked about time to fill concept, right? So this, armed with this data, the hospital hired more recruitment staff to deal with the requisition surge. So you will find that how things actually changes. Okay. Now in this business strategy on the screen, what you see here. So there is a people metrics, and then on the top corner there is a business results I've shown. So the workforce analytics actually works into the reporting and critical measure, right? There itself the people metrics comes in. Now we decide the workforce requirement, employees requirement, and that formulates the business strategy. That is the what strategic goal of the organization looking at. So we start from the workforce planning and the analytics by understanding the demographics, trends, internal, externals, or environmental impact. So this is how it changes, because HR needs to strategize and they need to prioritize based on the respective critical measures that we have. And we really need to know how we can measure, and then we report the relationship between various people initiatives we have, and business strategy and the outcomes, right? So you will find that when I talk about HR as a business partner, So we all experience the human resource professionals, those who work directly with the organization's senior leadership to develop or direct as an HR agenda that closely supports the organizational goals. So they are the business partners, right? So the goal of the strategic partner of the business is to make HR contribute to a business strategy. And this is what I have been mentioning from this day one session, that I want you all to be a part with the leadership team and you start working into the business strategy front, right? So this include to make HR contributes to the business strategy, which is strategizing that align with the business, contributing to the organization values, mission, planning, and having a seat at the table and participating in the strategic planning. So we really need to think, become a visionary into that element. So the effective HR you will find have three roles. Okay, so one is center of excellence. Okay, that we call them as COE. So they come with the specific HR expertise like global mobility, performance management, uh, compensation benefits, and there are shared services center which you would have known in the corporate. This is a very common jargon that we use, shared services, which is a customer facing part of HR. Okay, then business facing embedded HR, and which includes the different business partner roles. So uh, there are many different competency model for the human resource business partner. Now, these core competencies require and may differ between organization to organization. Now, before I go into the deep dive into this, you see on the screen, there is I have given you a grid that the future and strategic role focus versus the day-to-day operational focus. Okay. And then I've given you on the x-axis processes versus people. So now you need to try and understand where do you put yourself, which I'm going to ask in some time. Okay, so I'm talking about the grid which is in the blue. Now if you are a part of HR, or let me not say HR, now you are a part of any vertical or any department, right? And there is a one, if so, if you're handling people and your job is day to day or an operational work, that means you're an employee champion. Okay. Now, if you are doing a day to day work, but you are focusing more on processes, right? So that means you are an administrative expert. If you are future strategic focus, right? Your focus is on the vision aspect, the mission aspect. That focuses on the strategy aspect, and your focus is on the process. That means you are a strategic partner. But if you work for the people and the strategic focus is there, that means you are a change agent, right? So let me give an example here to put it very simply. Let's say I'm working with the people on a day-to-day operational focus. For an example, employee relationship manager, ERM, right? So there's a the process, the role says that I have to reach out to the every employee and have to act as an employee relationship manager. So if they have any challenge, any query, so they address that query to me. So I'm handling the the people problem, and it's a day to day task for me. So I'm an employee champion in there, right? But let's say I handling the administrative expert. So for an example, I know that I do a task of projecting how many leaves would be expected in the coming pandemic time. Okay, so again it's a operational and day-to-day task, but it is related to the process, because every organization have their own set of the leaves that you can take. So it could be a paid leave, it could be earned leave, unearned leave, whatever, the casual leaves and so on. So if I work on that, that means I'm an administrative expert. Okay, now let's talk about the strategic partner, which talks on the processes element, and it talks on the strategic focus. So just to give you an example, let's say I decide to change the performance management system, so that the organization as a whole can give the best of the benefit to an employee. Here we are talking about PMS as a process. So I work on the as a strategic partner. But let's say I talk about change agent. Now, change agent, for an example, I implement SAP in HR, right? I want to implement SAP in such a manner that it becomes ease for everyone, and specifically the HR function. So, what is there? I'm acting as a change agent because I'm focusing on the people, I'm focusing on the strategic focus, which is a future related. And here the learning also will come in, the engagement will also come in, so the role becomes bigger. So if I have to ask you, all of you, where do you put yourself in this grid? Are you a strategic partner? Are you a change agent? Are you an administrative expert? Or are you an employee champion? Please use the chat box and help me to know. Yes, you can unmute yourself also. Okay, so Rizwan Dadan says that he acts as a change agent. Wow, very nice. So Rizwan sir, I would really appreciate if you can share your role as a change agent that you're doing with your current organization for everyone. Please unmute yourself. It's a very nice
Well,
thing that you've shared. Yes.
I think as a trainer and a facilitator, as a freelance trainer, I consider myself as a change agent because I integrate myself with the HR team, with the teams that need the change, basically the employees or the participants,
Hmm.
whereby I look at the gap or the need for change, where they are right now and where they need to be, and based on that, in consultation with the HR, which are the strategic partners, I design the change that is needed. So I act as a change agent for the organization.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Rizwan sir. Could you just like to share? Now I'm going to, put you into a thought-provoking stuff, so that we can engage at a different level altogether, and it can be a great platform for all other audience to understand. So, which one, when you did a training need analysis or any kind of analysis, and you identified a one particular problem, what was that problem, and how did you solve that problem over a period of trainings? Can you just share that with us?
Okay, basically, I had a consultation with the HR. The need was that the team needs to have the skills of problem solving and decision making because they are a new young team and they are not very well because the team leader thought that there was some lack in the team's efforts towards problem solving and decision making. That was the feedback that I got from them as to that's what they want to address. So based on that feedback, that gap, I have designed a training program,
Hmm.
which is a facilitated training program, which has a broader spectrum of the team understanding not only the steps of problem solving, but also the tools and techniques, the various tools and techniques that are available in problem solving based on the industry that they are taking care of. So maybe it's a service industry. The problem solving and decision making process might be different
Hmm.
as compared to a manufacturing industry,
Hmm.
where the problem solving and decision making is totally different because there is a wide variety of decision making and functional areas in a manufacturing unit. So
Hmm.
that's what I understand is very important as a
Very
change.
nice. Thank you so much. So the problem solving and decision making. So that was a role that you actually identified, and you would have, I'm sure, given your perspective, and made them learn about these two as a separate topic.
Yeah.
Now, see, understand one thing. I can actually relate with the Rizwan sir that how he would have done it. So one is the age, the organization would have shared with them that we want to hold this particular session because there could be XYZ reason. You will be so surprised that in the mid December, I have another HR analytics session with all the top government officials, right? And you'll be so surprised that one of the challenges that we are facing with the government professionals are decision making. So they have so much of data, but they really don't know how to use that data. And they're just not able to take a decision because whatever the senior says, they the next level down, they just implement that, right? So when the person is going at a ladder, right, and then now you don't know how to take that decision, whether the decision will be right or wrong. So it becomes so very important, and I can actually relate that how much challenge Rizwan sir would have faced to it. So the role of as a HR business partner, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you. So where the journey of HR actually started as a personal management, we were only focusing on the welfare and personal administration, right? And we used to have a salary as a element, and then we used to talk about as a personal department rather than human resource management. Transition now has changed to the strategic human resource management, how they need to come up as a business partner, as a organization designers, right? Because we're talking about total business people integration, which is talking about aligning the organization strategy with the business strategy. And if you will see in this particular ROI scale, return on investment scale by Paul Kearns 2001 model, it actually talks about that. Yes, there are certain tools which was initially given by CIPD. CIPD is a UK based firm, and they actually have a lot of great tools which they use it systematically, so the human resource process becomes very important and effective. But then there was a transition which happened from using the internal consultant by making the decisions very effective and working with the direct with the managers, and then giving them the business person in HRM. Now finally the huge transition has happened, and now we always look for HR actually contributing to the growth for an organization. So HR is just not working as a just a human resource management. Absolutely no. We are actually becoming a contributor, and we have actually started working on the giving the best benefit. All right, so with this, let's try and understand. Now, business partners of HR, they not only work as a contributor to the business performance, but they actually promote the delivery of business benefit and maximize employee engagement, people management activities. There is a support of legal and regulatory compliance. Now, let me tell you this. These five are the basic competencies that organization is looking at. Okay, so how the companies use business intelligence, 14% year over year improvement in revenue per employee compared to 5% of those don't. Imagine how they have started using 20% decrease in unnecessary overtime payment, doubling in measured customer satisfaction, 13% increase in workforce utilization. So I'd like to give you the real example here of customer satisfaction score, which we had. I'm talking about in 2010, at that time I remember, I can't give you the real figures because it's almost like a I'm talking about a decade back figure. RBI, actually shared the customer satisfaction report, and I still remember they did a survey with HDFC, Axis, ICICI Bank, and Bank of Baroda. And so I'm talking about ICICI because at that time I was serving, and at that time the dissatisfaction percentage was more than 18%. So, there was I still remember how Chanda ma'am actually took up the initiative. And, there was a very smart concept of focus, that is feedback on customer as a concept came in. And it was implemented from the very starting, but then we were very focused. And then dissatisfaction rate actually came down to less than 12%, right? So this is how you work, and the role of HR actually becomes that very important. So though it is not only the department of the respective customer service have to take care, no. So the HR took that initiative, and we could do that. So you will find that you're able to actually connect business challenges to the HR activity, which could be including in the outcomes. Now, for an example, when a factory, I'm talking about an international example of Indonesia, they needed to open up their one of the ops there. So the human resource business partner, they should be able to identify which people challenges need to be tackled, and how they need to take an action. They should be being able to connect with the business challenges to the HR activities, which is probably one of the hardest competencies to master, let me tell you. And I still remember when I was doing a project with Honeywell, I was a consultant with them. And when we were implementing SAP in Malaysia, Asians come with a different mindset. And then when we had an expertise from, UK, from other APAC region, and then from America, we had to culminate them together. So we should be able to, analyze it and use those competencies so that everybody can actually work together in hand. So, how you can do that? You should be able to I would say read the dashboard and analyze the data. So as an HRBP, you should be able to use HR dashboards, reporting, analysis, and you should give a strong contextual understanding of business as well as local and the cultural issues. So this is what is required. So suppose you are planning to open in Indonesia, you should be knowing what exactly the problems they are facing. It could be related to, for an example, attrition problem is there. Then how you need to handle that particular setup. So a good understanding of a business and business priorities. I refer it as a business acumen and business sense, or a business savvy. I repeat that: business acumen, business savvy, or business sense. End of the day, HR is no more like an HR than what we used to talk about. You are a part of the business. So it represents the keenness and the quickness in understanding and dealing with the business risk or opportunity in a way that leads to a good outcome. So this can include, knowing a business that you are in. It could be including the sourcing of competitive advantage, market value competitors, a unique selling points, market share development, and understanding the marketplace, the role of a technology, a deep understanding of all the relevant stakeholders. So the picture is a very big and huge. So the excellent stakeholder management is key to success, let me tell you. In order to get the things done in business, you need to understand a little bit of the political landscape also. You're going much beyond, right? So we call, the way we say, you should be knowing about politics, you should be knowing about the culture. So what we call it as a pestle. Anyone knows pestle? PESTLE?
Environment,
I'm sorry.
political, political, environmental,
Yes, very good,
and
very good.
competitive
Yes.
environments, all
Hmm.
those different external factors that are fundamentally affecting the organization.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So, Pestle actually talks about the same political environment, socio-economical factor, geographical factor, so legal environmental. So, you really need to know all the environment, external environmental, and how the force is actually going to drive and put the change in. So, HR is not confined to, as I say, a smaller frame, right? Even in the training front, it is not related to the smaller frame. I remember, so in the month of, let me share another practical example, what happened with me. So in the month of March, third week, let me tell you this: 20th of March, I was supposed to fly to China for my leadership and a change engagement program, right? So it was with the upper middle management. It was like kind of a one level down of the stakeholder management. And my my passport had gone for the visa for China, and then pandemic crackdown. We all know 20 from 22nd onwards, like the lot of hue and cry started happening from the second week, and literally I said no for it. Now that was a thing which is happening, but then the beauty of this organization was that although the pandemic had hit, right, and we all know how China was affected, they still did the program not in the month of March, but in the month of May, because they realized that it's a multinational firm I'm talking about. They were very clear that yes, during the pandemic they had to delay, and a lot of organizations did the delay. But the focus was so very clear that yes, if this has happened, how the organization need to now channelize and work on the change management and the leadership approach, and how still we need to develop uh, the next line of people, especially when the work from home will start. So please try and understand, you as a leader, you as a HR professional, you as a training and development professional, you as an organization development consultant, need to be very very fast in understanding and executing things, right? So that's why I thought of sharing this as an example, which actually practical, which happened with me. And that's why we know. And let me tell you this, I did get a when I shared with my couple of friends and near my professional conducts, I told them, okay, I'm just training Chinese on this topic. I said, oh God, Anubha, why are you training Chinese, and you know how bad they have done. Now look at the approach we have, right? Now what I'm trying to say here is, it is not about one individual. uh, we have to work as a change in a mindset. So one is, you can be a creator, and one, you can be a destructor. You really need to figure that out. And for me, that is the vision that we always look for. Prisma philosophy is very clear on this, that we have to be creative. We can't be thinking. We are building the nations, we are building the generation, right? And we changed our communication pattern, and then this is how we deployed in my own organization and team, that even if we are training Chinese, no problem at all, nothing wrong in that. We have to be positive. We are talking about a global perspective, per se. So there are challenges that you will face, but then the workforce utilization is talking about that only, right? So the HR intervention actually works on that, supported which is by the business, and then you have to work with the set of consensus, and sometimes without no consensus. This can only happen when you have excellent communication and presentation skills, the first, right? So to manage the stakeholder effectively and to support the business through a value ending initiative, your communication and presentation skills has to be the strongest. This is, I'm reinstating again what I did in the second lecture. The There are various other competencies, but the first one is, you can be a very good in analytics, but if you can't communicate your analytics and your projection, that means you can't have a connect with the business. So ensure that your responsibility to pick up the key signal of the business, and you should be able to communicate very effectively to the people. Then, so effective at dealing with resistance also is a key. So you should be effective in dealing with resistance. Once the opportunity of HR interventions are identified, HR and the business should work really closely together to implement as this good as they can. They can operate on a tactical or at a strategical level. Competencies like uh, stakeholder management, dealing with resistance, communication skills. It involves a tactical level of skills which understand the business connecting business challenges of HR, activities. So have an effective assessment of the strategic and various tactical aptitude of HRBP, which is a key success as per me, and I have seen that that's work in that particular aspect. So, there is a strategic guidance that we are talking about as an institution leaders. HRBP focuses on process facilitation. It is, talks on the ensuring the result. And Center of Excellence, which I talked about, focuses on the process and quality guidelines, which could be working on the objective communication aspect, providing a right set of template, right? And strategic guidance is absolutely into the institutional scenarios, managing implementation. So there is a lot of deep analytics which help us move from I think to I know. Okay, there are two different words, but they are very, very strong. I mean, you have to move from I think to I know. That is giving with an analysis. So how does that work? How will that be used? The measurement continuum works from the less powerful to the more powerful by first one is anecdote. Anecdotes, we all know, that is, we use some set of examples, right? The real examples which we can quote. um, Anecdote, I said when I shared that the customer service score of my bank when I was working with them, it was, the dissatisfaction score was high, and that is anecdote. Then the second is reality check, and that is a reactive check we work on. So you actually figure it out where exactly we are at, So that is the current status report. And then you need to measure it on an ongoing basis report. It You can make a uh, Y on Y yearly report, or a QOY, quarterly on yearly report, month on month report, fortnight reports, daily run rate report. We have calculate daily run rate report also. Let me be very candid with you. So analytics actually works on with that. And then you create a benchmark that yes, we can do it. So let me give you this with an example. Okay. um, I remember we took a drive, and we wanted to check that how much time an employee take who was sitting in a cash counter to accept 50,000 cash. How much time, right? So I still remember that we identified that the teller was taking more than 10 minutes to accept 50,000 cash the moment the customer was walking in a branch. Okay. And then we did, first one was anecdote, then we did a reactive checks, and then ongoing report on a daily basis. First we did a pilot study, then we created a benchmark. And what we realized that yes, there are some set of people who can actually accept the cash in 6 minutes. 50,000 can be given an entry in 6 minutes, but then we created a benchmark of 8 minutes. And then that became the point where anyone accepting taking more time to accept the cash and give an entry for more than 8 minutes, we try to understand what could be the reason. And then we started working on correlation metrics, right? Correlation works on the two variables, right? X-axis and y-axis. That's how we work on. And then we worked on the simulation and forecasting. That means we identified that yes, let's make a threshold. And then we made on a oblique, we also call it a causal modeling. So we made a lot of initiative we had taken. One was crisp was cash received in sealed packet. That was a concept which was there. So these are all predictive modeling when the organization takes a call and we all initiate, right? So then here you go a very deep dive into the analytics. So that's why it's very important to work on from I think to I know. It's like thinking is a very a big gambit picture. We really, I mean, we can think anything, but we should be knowing with data. It should be supported by data, and that is why we say work on your data, work on your analytics, and work on your gambit, right? Yes. Okay. So the foundational versus advanced, how the output works on the dashboard monitoring to a deep dive analytics. In the output, we work on the count, rates, tabulation, whereas the deep dive analytics works on the cause and effect relationship. That is inferences we generate, and we get to know if that's an effect, what are the reason for that effect, and we identify various causes, right? So in the causes, which is also called Ishikawa diagram, which is also called a fishbone, and we get to know. So if we are working with the production house manufacturing firm, we use m's, that is man, machine, method, material, for identifying the causes. If we working in a service industry, we use p, that is people, process, product, element. So please try and understand that analytics needs to be done very smartly. Dashboard works on the information, that is what is happening, what is the turnover rate, or how many promotions are there, what are the span of control. Whereas advanced analytics talks about why do people quit, you know what are the moves that makes the employee promotable, and so on. You think from an absolutely different questionnaire altogether. The users are reporting, tracking, and monitoring the trend, that yes. But then when we use the advanced element of analytics, we are making a strategy, we are making a forecasting, and that is where the problem solving comes. And I must compliment Rizwan sir when he said that I use problem solving and decision making, because he said that I'm a part of change agent, and he is a part of change agent because he himself mentioned, and that was the best example we could get in the current session. Then we have various business intelligence tool, whereas in advance we have a various strategical modeling tool. It could be by using, causal relationship. We work on regression model. We work on Chi. We use the Mosas. So I mean, a lot of things are there on the statistical modeling technique, and that is why I mentioned, if you want to make yourself expertise in this, the book that I've just mentioned about mine, it actually talks about which tool to use on which particular parameter. That is the best thing, because a lot of time people don't know when to use which particular statistical tool. So this book is so very comfortable for the youngsters, the freshers, the professionals, and if you are actually still thinking out. Just to give an example, statistical process control, there are so many charts. There's a U chart, R chart, P chart, NP chart, and they really don't know when to use such chart, whether it is a attribute or whether it is a variable, right? Measurable variable. So one should know such kind of things to implement the right statistical modeling technique. Okay. Okay, so strategies for combining the data element and working with the benchmarking of data. Here we refers to the strategies, the combining the data into the element into the matrix, and for examining the changes in matrix and the magnitude of relationship between them or among them. So such analysis can inform managers about the current and the changing state of human capital in an organization, and this can be captured very smartly. So, the effort of HR metrics is to inform management about human capital. However, a challenges in using HR metrics for benchmarking is that organizations' human resource practice and its use reflects current challenges faced by the organization. So as a result, most organizations have the HR department, but a specific function performed by these particular departments, right? So the efforts becomes very important, very, very important. So what they say, the direct comparison of external HR benchmarking data to the one owns organization may not provide realistic evidence to the relative standing, or not providing the guidelines for either goal setting or for that matter forecasting. So we need to work on the remedial action. Now when we talk about these analytics, we work on three kind of data: volume, variety, and velocity. Okay, the three V's. Excuse me for this. Now, the three V's are used in the big data, and you will find that it is often seen as a valuable because it offers volume, variety, and velocity. So when we say it offers volume, because it provides large amount of data, which analyze, which can be a based of it. So let me ask the question to all of you: how many rows or columns are there in Excel? Can anyone tell me? You can please do a Google search right now, I have no problem. Anyone? It's a very thought provoking question, isn't it? I give a 30 seconds, no worries. You can do a Google search, or if you know, you can write a ballpark figure also on the chat box. How many rows and columns are there in Excel? How many data points can be there? We can add. Yeah, I can hear some.
104857.
1048. 104857. Very nice, very nice. Good. May I know who was this?
Yogesh.
Yes, Yogesh. Thank you so much. Okay, so when you see we just have this much a figure, so that means we can't have 10 years of data and we can't evaluate, isn't it? That means Excel can be used only for a respective number. And if we are using Excel, if we put any kind of analysis or formula, it takes time. Suppose we start evaluating 2 years data. If the system will not support, it will crash. Data will take time to evaluate. It might even take half an hour to get the report. So that is why we use those tools which I mentioned in the second session. I've already shared different tools and focused on. So I use SPSS, right? Minitab. You can use Tableau, so I mean whichever one. So in most cases the data sets as large as several hundred thousand instances are sufficient to identify your useful trends. Although there are instances where very large volume of data may permit additional insight. Let me give you a very good example. Today is Saturday. Yesterday was a Black Friday day. How many of you did shopping? Okay, I could see someone has written in the chat box. Okay. So Neelam has shared the rows and columns. Thanks, Neelam, for this. Okay, anyone did shopping, Black Friday shopping? Okay, no problem. Good, you're not didn't shop, but then you'll be so surprised that last Sunday, the Economic Times shared the report of Black Friday study that five it's like average of 2,000 rupees gets spent by US citizen on a Black Friday, whereas Indians are spending 480 rupees on Black Friday. Now, what I'm trying to share this with you is, look at the analysis which uh, the organization they do it, and they can actually project the number of sales and the amount of volume that would be generated. The revenue would be generated. So this is the role of big data, a new insight that works on. So the general of by incorporating a new types of data into analysis that were the it was not there previously, but today it's been used so beautifully, right? So caution here is, though in an organization have a tendency to conduct these analysis independently in their existing data, which can be managed, used to make a current decision. So, social media, for instance, can be mined to identify the characteristics of applicants who may be high performers, or who may be more important to know the questions which are there, and they can actually work on that. So you should be knowing, how to use it and how to finally work on it. uh, that's the volume and the variety I'm talking about. Velocity refers to the speed at which we can generate the data. Okay, so the big data characteristics most likely to when we say consistently create a value, for an organization, then only it is beneficial. So with respect to the big data, velocity refers to how quickly organization can generate a data on which to conduct the analysis by shortening the decision cycle. So that is why you will find all three V's becomes very important. Then we understand workforce analytics and organizational effectiveness and its impact. So we know that the changes in the data which is available to an organization, and which can allow them to make an advantage, right? So you should be knowing, the reports, individual reports frustrations are there with their inability to get, manages, because we need to tell them what information they need. It should be very very clear by the leaders. If they are not able to share that very clearly, then anybody will get haywire. So first is tell them what information you need first. Second, read and use the data or a matrix which is included in existing report. That's the second. Third, you need to even acknowledge receipt of the report. What I have seen is people don't do that, and the perception point of the fundamental challenges and opportunities comes up. So the common misconception in the objective of workforce analysis is actually to extract the value of HR data. Okay, and you really need to work on the two common and predictable outcomes. Firstly, individual tasked with developing and reporting HR metrics in organization actually struggles to determine which metrics to report and how those metrics should be calculated. I'm being very honest. This is, even I have faced it. Okay. And the second one is the result of the first outcome, that these organizations, report large number of metrics because there is no priority basis choose for them. So ultimately what happens is you have little or no impact on decision making, and therefore offers no return on the organization. So first is, if you are a great professional into the HR metrics, you should be knowing it, which matrix you're looking at, and telling your people how to generate by using which particular formula, tool, or the calculation. That's the first thing. And secondly, you should be very clear what you are asking for, rather than asking for all kind of reports and then going haywire. Okay. Then the another what I have seen is, you'll find is, the more effective workforce actually efforts, they are having a potential contribution and cost is involved in each analysis. So very important, understand, maximize the impact of analytics which you're doing and effort the person is spending on. Okay, and providing and working on it. uh, Also, I have known that, I want to put a highlight here. Managers sometimes misinterpret data. Okay, confusing the random variability, uh, and concluding with their, uh, as per the practical requirement. So kindly don't do that, please. Okay. um what's the time? I'm okay. It's, yeah, we have good. So I have one case for all of you. So this is the various opportunities what I was talking about, that is, you should be knowing the proficiency metrics, that is what metrics you're looking at, whether it is cost per hire, days to fill, and so on. Operational effectiveness, I have already talked to you. Even the last class when you had asked me, in one of the assessments, that you can use. So one, I think ISTD has given you one task. So you can actually have the operational effectiveness on the recruitment, selection, employee deployment, training, job design, employee motivation and engagement, and so on. Even for that matter, strategic realignment and starting with the end in mind. Okay. Okay, so the 5 steps for working on it. First, start with an impact in mind. You should be knowing what you're looking at. Don't silos your thinking, please. Okay. Avoid data smog. That's the common problem I have seen. Fourth, be aware of the shiny new toy. I mean, I have seen people are just glorifying it and using it. Okay. And make it stick. That's another one. So let's take, when I say start with the impact in mind, you should be very clear, when, how to collect the data, what matrix to choose, how you need to report the matrix, and how you need to analyze your findings, and finally how you need to assess the impact. Okay, so in this you will find that the workforce analytics actually takes you to the workforce intelligence, because workforce intelligence is focusing on the business impact and the HR platform focus. So we use strategic intelligence for the strategical perspective. But when I use workforce for analyzing the data, that means I'm working on workforce analytics, right? So don't get any confusion over here. Don't silos your thinking. Very important. Please focus on your
Excuse me,
yes.
can you repeat that? You said strategy and workforce. What is the
Oh
difference?
yes, yes. Let me do that. So I was talking about. See, we have so many types of intelligence. We have intelligence, IQ intelligence, right? That is a intellect intelligence. Second one is emotional intelligence, social intelligence, right? Relationship intelligence. The same very way, when I'm working for the strategy, right? I say strategic intelligence. When I work and use the data point of the workforce, then it becomes workforce intelligence, because the role of HR is working with the business partners and using the HR platform. So when we combine that, that's how the analytics becomes of the workforce. Okay. All right. Don't silos your thinking. You should be uncovering the questions on the people issue. What do you believe the biggest people challenges created by the company's business strategies, right? What talent groups or categories will be critically important to achieving your strategic goal? Would you say that your talent acquisition is characterized by a build or a buy strategy? Okay, or which skills and talent groups can be developed internally, which needs to be bought from the outside? Do you anticipate any change, major change in technology or other innovation that will affect how people do their job? Has the deal between the company and its employees changed? What I've tried to given you is the global mindset of the senior leaders, and this is what I want all of you to actually use such set of questions when you're working on to the strategic analytics and using the workforce analytics. So that's why we say don't silos your thinking, don't narrow down, make it a very bigger horizon and holistic approach.
Still
uh,
not able to understand, no, but when you say strategic analysis and workforce analysis,
yeah,
ultimately it boils down to achieving long-term goals, right? How are they different, basically?
very nice. See, please understand, let me revisit this again. I said I think and I know. Please understand this. When will I use I think? I think will be used when I use a strategic thinking without any data point. Okay. But the moment I use data point, which is called workforce analytics, that means the people who has already done something in the past and current, I use that data and then analyze it. That is what is called, workforce analytics. Please don't get confused between
So
strategic.
what you mean to say is strategic analysis is coming out with ideas and creative thought processes, and then
Absolutely.
adding data to that and making it more practical and realistically implementable. That is the second stage from strategic analysis.
Truly understood
They're
now.
not different basically, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's a linear process basically
It's a
going on.
linear process, and it's a betterment of the process. So we know social media is a trend today. Okay, we know that work from home is a trend today. We have already talked about it. So we know that in future everything will happen from home. But if I want to know what are the current challenges people are facing by working from home, or what are the benefits people are facing, and how much sale we can do, how much satisfaction, how much employee engagement, such kind of questions, how will you get it? Only through by using the data point. There you can't have your strategy in place. You need to figure it out what people are feeling, and that can only happen by using the statistical tool.
So
Okay.
that means you outline your strategy for the next 2 or 3 years, and then you collect data from your historical data, and then you put it in the right format to implement
Absolutely.
the
That's
work.
how the forecasting happens.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. Right. Okay. Yes. Avoiding smog data. Okay. So human capital data. So I've already given, there are so many types of data: demographic, recruiting, performance, engagement, compensation and benefit, mobility, diversity, employee energy, social networks. Customer data: satisfaction, loyalty, acquisition cost, churning rates. Financial data are on revenue, expenses, assets and liability, and profitability. Ops data are on productivity, quality, cycle time, and unit cost. So the power of combining the data source is your actionable insight. If you can figure it out, and you can do a correlation matrix and regression by using employee demographics with the acquisition cost and churning rate, or for that matter turnover and retention with the revenue. Okay, so that means what I'm doing is I'm working on human capital data with the financial data. I'm working customer data with the financial data. I'm working on ops data with the human capital data. I can also work on one variable, that is one independent variable and two dependent variable. I can work either way. Okay, but then I should be knowing it what is exactly that I'm looking at. So we get to know certain set of problems when we are working at a bigger level, at a senior level, or when I want to do a projection in the future, I will use such kind of things. So most of the times I have seen, we don't use the data effectively. So please try to make it a different kind of permutation and combination, and then share the your senior management that this is what I have analyzed. I think we really need to consider this, or we need to project it. Are we looking at building the team, or are we looking at into the breaking into a different chunks altogether? So we need to figure that out. Imagine 5 years back when we got to know that the median age in India is 26 years old. 26.3. This data you can only get when you have data point. Okay, and that's how we have started using the professionals at this particular age on a respective requirement and creating a future leader. Okay, all right. So this is what we're working on, the readiness and striving for the perfection into the continuing towards the engine. Okay, be aware of shiny new toy. Please, I have seen the one of the challenges is that we end up using it by projecting in a very beautification method, by contouring it, by putting a face mask to it. Kindly don't do that. It's, if you're about to bring a change, I think we have to come up and share it out. Let me give you a very good example here of almost like 8 years back, this organization, they started a initiative called, uh, you know, they had one female staff in 100 men. So it was 1:100 ratio. Company took that initiative of 1:10. Okay. So this was the vision that they did. And then they first made it a part of a benchmarking practice. I've already shown you how you can go it. And trust me, today they are into the benchmarking practice. And now this organization has become a role model for various organizations, that we really need to give the best in the form, because the females are also equally great contributor. And today you will find the huge start change have happened, in the manufacturing setup, in an assembly line where the females are also working. So please take care of that and make it stick, your performance. Educate, engage, and coach your people. Tell the right stories. Evaluate the measures and generate a new insight. The best is people are with the best of the information and knowledge and amazing ideas. Trust me, if you can use their ideas, you will be surprised at the kind of benefit that they can give it to an organization growth and the profit orientation, that you will be so happy and surprised and superb, right? So make it strict on whatever you plan and do it. Okay, so what we will do is, let's have a quick small case study. I'm going to, Arun sir, you there? Okay, I think it's already 5:17:20 is touching. Let us try and understand. Okay, and let me see who can come up with an answer. We'll keep it not uh, uh, the breakout room, but let me make it a small case study, and maybe we can understand later. In the next class also we can start with this. Okay, a regional hospital is a 500-bed hospital and several associated clinics in a major East Coast metropolitan areas. It has been an aggressive adopter of computing technologies in efforts to decrease cost and improve operational efficiencies. A critical challenge facing the hospital is meeting its ongoing challenges to staff the hospital and allied clinical effectively, given the ongoing shortages of nurses, uncertainty in healthcare legislation, emphasis on the shortening hospital stays to reduce the cost, which cause the daily census, that is the number of patients in various departments, to vary dramatically from day to day and to shift, the continued aging of the population in its primary care area, and the unending competition for the employees with the key skill set. Now, employees' expenses represents more than 80% of the overall cost of operations for the hospital. So, identifying ways to match optimal skills and the number of employees to the appropriate shift is critical to achieving consistent success. However, individual shifts managers struggle to make effective staffing decisions, resulting in consistent overstaffing and understaffing of shift and the department. These staffing problems potentially increase the high cost of varied levels of patient care and satisfaction, and potentially increase the risk that the staff turnover may escalate because of dissatisfaction with the continuing inability of managers to match staffing needs to demand. Company managers recognize the potential that the HR metrics and analytics might have for their organization, and they have come to you for help. Okay, so these organizations have come to all of you. They're hearing from their peer in their hospital that matrix can help in this area, but not quite sure where to start. They're looking for you to offer a guidance on how do you do for the HR metrics and the workforce analytics. Okay. Now, my suggestion for all of you is here. I'm not going to give the answer. Okay. I would request, please take out your camera. Click this case. This case is only this much. Please click this case in your mobile phone. Because in the next class, I'm going to start with this. Kindly confirm me once you have clicked it on the chat box. I can see one person has done that. Two. Okay. All right. Great. So you have clicked it. Thank you so much. Now, the question to all of you is, you can again click this, please. Please click this also so that we will be able to discuss it in the next class. Do you believe that a program of HR metrics and workforce analytics might be useful in the regional hospital? If so, why? As per you, what opportunities do you see regarding where and how metrics and analytics might be applied in this organization? Identify 3 analysis and associated metrics you think might be useful for regional hospital to consider. How might regional hospital utilize benchmarking as a part of its metrics and analytics effort, if at all it will be there? What advice would you offer to the managers of regional hospital about developing a program of HR metrics and workforce analytics? What potential problem might occur in the establishment of HR metrics and workforce analytics program for regional hospital managers, about which you want to alert them to prior to the beginning of this project? I hope this has been clicked by all of you. Kindly just unmute yourself, anyone, or a couple of you, please do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much. Okay, I will. It's already 5:25. So I hope the case is clear. So what we will do is, I'm just quickly. The answer was already there, so I've just quickly shifted. So in the next class, what we will do is we'll start with the breakout room, and maybe you can come with your own thought, and you can also read the blog which I had sent you about the staffing. Okay, and if you missed out, it is already there in the chat box. So what happens is, it will be giving you a very good insight. I'm again putting that uh, blog for you. Okay, staffing and staffing data analytics, ladies and gentlemen, so that it's there in the chat box. It will be really good for you to. Okay. Can we have the PPT? Yes, my dear, you will be getting the PPT, I'll send it across to the ISTD, and they will give it to you. But I want right now, before sending this particular PPT, I want you to think through from your own thought, research perspective. I have given you 2 different blogs altogether. You'll get a lot of insight from there, trust me. And then I'll send it across, right? So we are coming to an end. So if you have any query and question, you can ask me.
Ma'am, how different is workforce planning and manpower planning? I understand workforce planning is more about skills and the talent that is required, and manpower planning is more about the number plus someone who can be groomed for the future, but a bit disconnect about workforce planning.
No, you
Modeling.
already said it. You very well said it. You yourself answered it pretty well. So you answered it
So
pretty
how?
well. Yeah.
So they are similar terms but used differently, but not
Use differently when
much
you
of
use it
difference.
with the analytics. When you use it with the analytics, where the data you gets used, and we get to know that what kind of things that we're looking at into the projection manner. So that's how it is. Manpower planning, we used to use it, in the past, where we used to think, okay, if we have, let's say we are opening up a new plant, how many people need to go and work there, how many people would be good for this X particular job. So those are the manpower planning that we do. But then in a workforce analytics, we work on not only the recruitment and selection, but also to understand the job requirement and the performance that we're looking at from each person. So it's a bigger picture.
Thank you.
Ma'am, this is Deepak Sharma.
Yes, Deepa.
So the example that you quoted related to customer satisfaction report, I'm not from HR domain, and you mentioned you did some study and then it was 18%, it came down to 12%.
Hmm.
So what kind of, being in HR function, what kind of role did you play? How did you analyze it? What kind of contribution you made? And the reason
Okay.
I'm asking this question, let's
Yes.
say
No,
if I,
absolutely good. I can relate to it. So we had a balance scorecard, and in the balance scorecard, in the customer perspective, this element of focus, what I mentioned, FOCUS. So focus on. I'm just going to write down for all of you on the chat box so that it's easier. Okay. So FOCUS. So the full form became focus on customer service. So that is F was feedback. I'm sorry, I mentioned it's feedback, feedback of customer. Here it is. Okay, so focus full form was feedback of customer service, right? So that's how the focus score came into the balance scorecard customer perspective. Okay, now what we did was we made a three component into it, three metric measurement tool into it. One was if any branch so see, we worked in a branch, then a cluster, then the region, and then the zone, and then the national average. See, we got the national average, and then we further deployed it to a branch wise. So how
I don't know if it's only me, but you are not audible.
Yeah, I guess there's a problem with everyone. No one
Yeah.
can hear.